Hello everyone, Eddie DeWitt here, and welcome to my little social media experiment video. This is an introspective into the experience of social media with and without it. I spent a week away from it and also my phone entirely, and the idea of this presentation is to explain the effects of what has happened with me being away from it and how it affected other people online. In the process, I'll share educated reads and statistics from various institutions to complement my experience and the overall juxtaposition of how people use and are influenced by it and the resulting psychological effects. I'll also dive into my social media history in general. The first topic is something I like to call the pull. This is where it all starts, right? You wake up in the morning, and one of the first things many people like to do is check their phones instead of getting up, getting dressed, and eating breakfast before starting their day. Waking the kids up, exercising, whatever it is you have as your routine. I was doing this constantly, and it became my first focus before anything else. I was more concerned about what was happening in the world instead of focusing on mine. It was mindless scrolling, with the exception of messages from friends and family and building a platform for music. There's a gentleman by the name of Jake Newby. He's a brand journalist for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, and he wrote an article in February this year pointing out the several factors to these effects, saying that excessive smartphone use upon waking up can negatively impact mental health by increasing stress and anxiety while reducing productivity. Doom scrolling and brain rot, quote unquote, terms describing the consumption of negative or low quality online content, are habits many of us indulge in before we even get out of bed. Well, I didn't know what a meme was until the year 2020, and it was something that was a good stress reliever, and it was good comedy. Everyone likes different subjects and topics, and everyone has a different sense of humor. But I felt that was some sort of healthy initiative when I would share it amongst my friends and family. If you've had a long day and, you're stressed out, and it's a good way to unwind. There are a lot of other things online that don't necessarily have any relevance or importance to us, but we look at them anyway. I was also doing that too. So as soon as I announced I was going off the grid, like when I made the announcement on social media, immediately some people reached out, and it was a different combination of, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And that to me was the social media response to, are you okay? Think about that for a moment. Social media has evolved so much over the years that it creates a false sense of awareness. A mask of dependency shows up and acts as genuine concern for stepping away. An emotional response based on inactive engagement. Clay Drinko, he's an educator and an author who wrote an article on psychologytoday.com in 2025. And he says it causes harsher effects in loneliness, stress, and anxiety. Now, I don't particularly have any issues with those these days, but in the past I did. And it was all because of the effects of social media. But I believe a lot of others on the receiving end do, the people online, even when I was gone for a week, because it acts as a tether for meaningful communication without knowing the real world intent. If you see where I'm going with this, I feel this is especially true with the younger generation and also the older generations, just normal people, but also people with disabilities and mental health issues. Clay says social media works like gambling, with social media behaviors like checking your notifications or feed are reinforced by rewards, like seeing that someone liked your post or commented something complimentary about you. The thing that makes it super addictive is that these behavioral rewards aren't consistent. I don't know if I'm going to get 0 likes or 1,000, and it's that variable reinforcement that really keeps us coming back for more. That is very strong and profound, I have to say. One study found that short breaks from Facebook decrease stress levels, especially in excessive social media users. There's not a lot of research on ditching social media yet. Before I keep reading this article, I think that also Instagram and X should be included in this as well, because they're also big. So what Clay, based on what Clay is talking about, he feels that this study is important and very enlightening. I agree with this. He says when people become so reliant on and attached to social media, reduced stress doesn't seem like the only possible outcome. I've seen students extremely stressed out because they were asked to put their phones away before an exam. But this study is one tiny clue that a digital detox might help you feel less stressed, and it might go back to ditching those variably reinforced rewards. Yes, it feels great when you hit big and lots of people respond to your post, but it feels crummy when something doesn't land. Taking a break from the ups and downs seems to lower stress levels, generally speaking. So, and that's the end of what I captured there. So, from Clay. So, with that being said, I'll go ahead and I'll start by sharing my personal experience from this week fast from social media. So, on the first day when I wasn't working, throughout the day, the feel of dopamine of me wanting to check my phone, it was intense. So intense. So when that happened, I did little things to distract myself from the attempt, such as flicking light switches off and on. I started to sing songs, and eventually I pulled out a book and started reading something such as The Silmarillion. I'm a big fan of Tolkien's world, so that is something I was rather wanting to enter, as it had way more meaning and was healthier for my mind and soul. It was a human experience told through the lens of fantasy. It was, to me, food for thought and contains subliminal and direct messaging for life, meaning, love, loss, and adventure. The act of me doing this was initiated by the wanting of understanding the fragmented poetry of an incomplete work, because that's what that is. That is also propagated by me writing poetry myself. I found myself focusing on more human experiences. That's basically how the first day went. On the second day, same thing to start. I didn't check my phone. I got up, got dressed, ate, and I went to work. And after work, I decided to create or continue more extracurricular activities. I started pulling stock scripts online and practicing voiceover bits. I connected with a brand new community and set a schedule for searching out new events and gatherings related to the arts. I believe we as humans learn best by going out and creating those experiences. It completely sidelined my expectations for that day. I expected more out of myself, which, generally speaking, I don't normally think that, because I think I'm more than enough. But in the same sense, I'm always surprising myself at the things that I'm discovering and being able to work with. And, not just from that week, but even the years just building up to this, I'm in a state where I constantly need to be working or moving, because doing nothing drives me nuts. except for, when I've completed a long day of work or projects, then I do enjoy my relaxation time. But even sometimes in my relaxation time, I like to do projects because it's a physical and a spiritual connection. It has intense and great meaning in my life. It's tied to my DNA, and it's a blueprint that I want to leave because it's a big part of me, and I want other people to experience whatever that creation is. So I have a strong will for these things, but the journey getting here wasn't easy. And, I didn't, at certain points, I didn't have a strong will for those things. So, with that being said, that leads us into the next topic. Brace yourself. This one is very ugly. The poison. This is a very big and much longer topic to dissect. I will be saying things that a lot of people don't want to hear, and subjectively and objectively, you can talk about it amongst your friends and family. How did it affect my mind and health? Not just from this week experiment, but from the years leading up to now. By doing all those repetitious checks and looking for new updates, looking at content that has no importance or relevance to me, but I found instant gratification in, regardless, I found myself decreasing my cognitive awareness. May or may not be a surprise there. For those who don't know, cognitive awareness is the conscious understanding of one's own thinking processes, mental states, and knowledge, often described as thinking about thinking, or metacognition. It involves monitoring, evaluating, and regulating cognitive functions such as memory, attention, and learning strategies to improve decision-making and performance. Over time, and over the years, I have had to relearn certain aspects of the things I was good at in life and expand on my knowledge, use, and presentation of it. When I fell out of IT, which was my old career, and music, when I had long bouts of dry spells and I wasn't constantly engaged or working on that, outside of work, I felt social media intentionally decreased my focus in vocabulary, my intellect, and it made me depressed. And I think we all get depressed in some form, but it's how we handle it that matters, right? The first step to solving a problem is recognizing there is one. Sometimes we don't even realize the mental and emotional toll social media does to us, even when we think we don't use it that much. I used to feel reservations of other people online when it came to business and handling the engagement of others. About 10 years ago, I had a complete mental breakdown, and I removed almost everybody from my friends list on Facebook. Yeah, I said things to certain people I shouldn't have. I caused discord and dissonance with others, questioning my emotional and professional stability. I was hard-headed and inexperienced in the things I wanted and looked at those situations in every wrong way possible. And especially at that time, my mind was not as strong as it should have been. I expected too much of others, not realizing the burdens that were my responsibility. I let unrealistic expectations kill my online presence. I even lost some people that didn't want to be affiliated with me anymore. So in the time after that incident, over the years, I've mended those relationships. They are now stronger than ever. I have mended and managed my responsibilities, my expectations, and I've had a complete reinvigoration of my mind to realize to be more responsible with the cards that are being dealt to me. There's an article from the Library of Medicine website. It's in the UK. It lays out a process very relevant on self-perception on social media. They describe a process called the self-discrepancy theory that deals with 3 versions that people face with online. And I quote, "They are the actual self, the attributes individuals believe they currently possess, the ideal self, the attributes individuals aspire to have, representing hopes and desires, and the ought self, the attributes individuals believe they should have based on obligations and responsibilities." The principles of the self-discrepancy theory are extremely relevant in the context of social media use, where the distinctions between those 3 selves become increasingly pronounced. Social media platforms provide users with opportunities to present curated and often idealized versions of themselves because the public nature of those platforms allows individuals to showcase only the aspects of their lives that align with their ideal self, their aspirations, achievements, and highlights. In addition to comparing themselves with others online, users may also experience internal conflict when comparing their own false or idealized online persona with their real offline self. I know some people that do exactly that. This internal comparison can heighten self-awareness and lead to discomfort or self-criticism, particularly when the gap between one's actual and projected identities becomes more evident. In this case, social media may not only expose users to idealized images of others, but also confront them with an unrealistic version of themselves that they feel compelled to maintain. The curation of self-presentation on social media, through the selective sharing of achievements, appearances, or aspirational moments, can exacerbate the perceived gap between the actual self and the ideal self. This widened discrepancy often intensifies emotional strain, leading to dissatisfaction or frustration when individuals compare their everyday realities to the polished versions they showcase online. Furthermore, social media amplifies the pressures related to the ought self, where users feel the need to conform to societal norms, peer expectations, and cultural standards. The presence of likes and comments and shares as forms of public validation intensifies the drive to meet these external expectations. When individuals perceive that their self-presentation on social media does not align with what they believe is expected of them, it can lead to anxiety, guilt, or fear of negative evaluation. That fear of negative evaluation is definitely the big one that I dealt with, that feeling when I was trying to conduct business and engage with other people online. Thus, the discrepancies between the actual ideal and ought selves are not only heightened by the constant comparisons inherent to social media, but also amplify the compulsion to engage more frequently with these platforms in an attempt to bridge the gap between these self-concepts. End quote of the article from the Library of Medicine. So that sounds like that is a massive self-image issue. It's a common issue all across the world. I don't think there are any limitations to that because it affects everybody. Well, I guess everybody that uses the internet. I want to bounce off of this with what I believe pushes the poison even further into other people's lives personally. I feel that it's gotten to the point where there is no more wonder surprise or patience for the things that don't exist yet, particularly in entertainment and personal wants or needs of people. People look at what everyone else is doing, and they use that to fill the void in their own lives about something they don't have. I I watch a lot of this British comedian. His name is Jimmy Carr. He's super funny, super smart. I consider him the master of dark humor. He once pointed out at one of his shows about entertainment that, frankly, I'm inclined to agree and disagree with. And it's specifically on video games. He says, video games are just cheap dopamine and act as a proxy for the career someone doesn't have. Pretty powerful in that stance. I agree that obsessive and constant playing of video games may fall into that opinion, but I feel it's informative and emotionally engaging. I believe it nurtures the mind with the way storytelling has progressed in a very movie-like state where it's amplified because you are controlling and experiencing the character in that game. They can be as effective as a movie since a lot of them now these days play out like one. Now, with that being said, I agree that if you do nothing else besides that, or you are an internet hermit, or you really are filling a void because you don't have a video game related job and you play them because you feel helpless or unable to change that, maybe taking a break from the internet is a smart move because social media just further depresses that situation. It makes people second guess their life choices. Like, oh, why didn't I go down this path? I wish I was doing what this person was doing. And then you feed off of that information and you just keep looking at it instead of trying to chase it yourself. It's not a crazy theory, I don't think, but I think it's incredibly true for today's standards. I believe people treat the internet and concurrently social media as the only schooling and education they need. I believe formal education challenges you to learn and maintain that information and being able to give it yourself. And because of how easy it is to bring up everything, fact-checking becomes way more frequent. I believe formal education benefits the way of living and societal factors in a way that social media is ultimately a pale imitation of motivation and progress, if you were to compare the two. Another article from psychologytoday.com mentions the effects of something called the Dunning-Kruger effect and what causes it. And the quote, and this is based on people that live and breathe on the internet. They say, confidence is so highly prized that many people would rather pretend to be smart or skilled than risk looking inadequate and losing face or face value. Even smart people can be affected by the Dunning-Kruger effect because having intelligence isn't the same thing as learning and developing a specific skill. Many individuals mistakenly believe that their experience and skills in one particular area are transferable to another. And even with all of that said, in the way that people absorb information and give information out, there are a lot of positive uses and benefits of social media as well. And I'm going to have that lead into the last topic. We're going from gloom and doom to happiness and hopefully fruitful possibilities. I have an offer/project for you to do. Woohoo! The proposition. All right. Well, there are many positive things that social media offers. So before I give you my offer for consideration or a project for you to try, I want to go over really quickly what I think are the positive uses and effects of social media. I believe that if you use it for friends and family communication, or if you're part of a healthy online community and you share stuff and like-minded ideas, whether personal or not, or if you're doing business online, or if you're networking to create new connections, I believe that nurtures your growth. That is you being informative. That is you opening opportunities and encouraging those outside the spectrum to be influenced by better work ethic and more important topics and relative food for the mind. Everyone thinks and sees things differently, sure, and people get influenced differently or not at all. If the message at hand is toxic, doesn't move the narrative forward, or is hateful with no context or healthy motive, I say stay away. Ultimately, at this point, after my experience, I would say keep your phone with you, but don't keep it on you. Think about that and understand the difference. The good thing with social media and entertainment is that it can give emotional regulation, a place of belonging, and a safe space, as long as the circumstances of that setup do not detriment your real life situation. Okay, so here's my offer or project. Try to spend no more than 10 to 15 minutes on your phone looking at non-important info, whatever that is to you and whatever that means to you, and ask yourself every morning and every day, is this serving me while allowing me to continue to grow in the real world, or am I looking for clarification in life that social media can't offer? And also there's little things. Disable notifications on your phone. Set time limits for your usage. And what else? Oh, I just thought of this one. This might be a tough one. Keep your phone out of your bedroom or your bathroom or your dining room. That sounds like a tough one, doesn't it? I did it though, and what a difference it makes. Try it out. You might be surprised. Hopefully that helps, and maybe this offer/project will last a little bit for you, or a while, or even forever. Who knows? So, to close out this presentation, I want to ask everyone listening here, what room are you in? Are you at home? Are you in the office? Are you outside? Look around your space right now, and then look at your phone. Do you feel content? Or is there something or so much missing, and you want to break free of those chains and improve your life? Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And I'm very happy I did this experiment. I feel I'm at the very best I can be, and there's always room for improvement. And without my phone, my life is immensely better when I don't need it. I hope everyone thinks deeply about these topics, and I'd love to hear any stories or influence in this information that impacts you, good or bad. Leave your comments down below if you want to engage in that. And cheers.